The U.S. has concluded in an intelligence report that the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia approved an operation to capture or kill journalist Jamal Khashoggi. But some are asking why the report is being released now.
Who knows?
Former President Donald Trump gave his first speech since leaving office at CPAC on Sunday. He talked about the possibility of running in 2024 and whether he might form a new party. And New York City Governor Andrew Cuomo is feeling the heat. He's facing calls to resign as he finds himself embroiled in sexual harassment scandals and probes into how he handled the pandemic. Tune into Deep Dive as we explore these topics and more. Hello and welcome. This is Deep Dive and I'm Tiffany Meier. Let's talk oil, more specifically Saudi Arabia, which is the world's largest oil exporter. Now, Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince is said to be responsible for the death of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. That's according to a declassified report from the Director of National Intelligence. Khashoggi was a Virginia-based journalist and dissident who disappeared in Turkey in 2018. The report says Prince Mohammed bin Salman approved the operation in Turkey to capture or kill Khashoggi. The report says it's extremely unlikely this would have happened without his approval. That's because the Crown Prince has had complete control over security in intel organizations since 2017. This is the first time the U.S. is naming Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince responsible for Khashoggi's killing. Intel concludes that the prince viewed Khashoggi as a threat to the kingdom and broadly supported using violent measures if necessary to silence him. But some are questioning why the report is released now. Others point out only 3/4 of a page that's actually about Khashoggi's murder. The entire executive summary reads, "We assess that Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman approved an operation in Istanbul, Turkey to capture or kill Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi." It goes on to say, "We base this assessment on the Crown Prince's control of decision-making in the kingdom, the direct involvement of a key advisor and members of Mohammed bin Salman's protective detail in the operation, and the Crown Prince's support for using violent measures to silence dissidents abroad, including Khashoggi." And since 2017, the Crown Prince has had absolute control of the kingdom's security and intelligence organizations, making it highly unlikely that Saudi officials would have carried out an operation of this nature without the Crown Prince's authorization. Now, many people are pointing out that nowhere does the report list any evidence. The report says we assess, but doesn't add anything else to it. There's no with confidence, with sources, not even anonymous or redacted ones, or physical evidence. Later on the same page, the report goes on to say the Crown Prince probably fostered an environment in which aides were afraid that failure to complete assigned tasks might result in him firing or arresting them. Probably is not a strong word. It's suggestive, but not conclusive. Saudi Arabia has responded to the report, saying they completely reject what they call the negative, false, and unacceptable assessment from U.S. intelligence. The Foreign Ministry says the crime was committed by individuals who violated regulations, and that the kingdom took steps to ensure this tragedy never happens again. Now, while President Biden has said he'll recalibrate the U.S. towards Saudi Arabia, he's not going to directly punish the Crown Prince. That's according to the New York Times, citing senior administration officials. That's because the price of sabotaging the relationship of a U.S. ally is, quote, too high. Saudi Arabia also plays a big role in the geopolitical scene. According to the New York Times report, officials say Saudi Arabia plays a vital role in confronting Iran and terrorism. To lose such an ally would cost too much. The steps the U.S. has taken so far was to issue sanctions on some Saudis believed to be involved in the Khashoggi killing and sanctions on others, including a former deputy intelligence chief. But the Crown Prince remains untouched. According to a CNN transcript, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was pressed about the Biden administration's actions since the report came out. During her appearance on CNN's State of the Union, Psaki was asked as to why the Crown Prince wasn't included in the list of sanctioned Saudis. Psaki says that's because historically there have not been sanctions put in place for the leaders of foreign governments where we have diplomatic relations and even where we don't have diplomatic relations. Psaki went on to say it needs to be clear that our relationship with Saudi Arabia is one that is in the interest of the United States to maintain. while still being clear it will be recalibrated. She went on to say, "We are going to hold them accountable for human rights abuses, and we are going to take actions, including the actions announced by the State Department and the Treasury Department on Friday." So going back to the question of the report, why issue a report that seems to present no conclusive evidence? Some point to the Iran nuclear deal as a motivation, noting this makes Iran look better. And since the U.S. is in talks to re-enter the Iran nuclear deal, some say this is a bargaining chip. The Biden administration is set to make an announcement on Saudi Arabia on Monday. The administration has come under fire from a Washington Post editorial and from others for not being tougher on Saudi Arabia's crown prince. The Washington Post issuing a commentary titled, "Say It Ain't So, Joe." Now to Trump's first public appearance since leaving office. Speaking at CPAC on Sunday, Trump hinted at running again in 2024.
Hello, CPAC. Do you miss me yet? Do you miss me yet?
During his much-anticipated speech at CPAC, former President Trump tells his supporters the MAGA movement is alive and well, adding the journey they started is far from over. In his hour-and-a-half speech, Trump laid into the Biden administration, saying Biden had the, quote, most disastrous first month of any president in modern history. Trump warned that Biden is following a radical socialist path that could lead America to communism. He also criticized Biden's immigration policies, saying it led to an influx of illegal immigrants, especially minors. Trump went on to say Biden's radical immigration policies aren't just illegal, they are immoral. They are heartless, and they are a betrayal of our nation's core values. He predicts that the immigration policy is such a big deal, it's enough for the Democrats to lose the White House in 2024. Trump then hinted at his own run.
Who knows? I may even decide to beat them for a third time. A Republican president will make a triumphant return to the White House, and I wonder who that will be.
Other areas of critique included rejoining the World Health Organization, re-entering the Paris Climate Accord, and canceling the Keystone XL pipeline. Trump also called on Biden to get the schools open right now, saying no more special interest delays. But it's not just the Democrats. Trump also laid into the rift in the Republican Party, naming each Republican who voted against him by name, saying get rid of them all. He also squashed any claims that he's starting a third party, saying we have a Republican Party.
I am not starting a new party. That was fake news. Fake news, no. Wouldn't that be brilliant? Let's start a new party and let's divide our vote so that you can never win. No, we're not interested in that.
So what are his goals for the future? Trump says election integrity for future elections is of utmost priority. He went on to say the election was rigged and the Supreme Court didn't have the courage to take up the Texas election challenge lawsuit. He also went after big tech, calling for big tech monopolies to be broken up. This comes about a month after Twitter, Facebook, and Google suspended his social media accounts. Trump also touched on China, saying we believe in standing up to China, shutting down outsourcing, bringing back our factories and supply chains, and ensuring that America, not China, dominates the future. He went on to say companies that leave America to create jobs in China and other countries that have ripped us off for years should not be rewarded. They should be tariffed, fined, and punished. He went on to say the future of the Republican Party is as a party that defends the social, economic, and cultural interests and values of working American families of every race, every color, and every creed, and that Republicans believe that the needs of everyday citizens must come first. Now let's turn to New York City, where Governor Andrew Cuomo is feeling the heat. He's facing calls to resign as he finds himself embroiled in sexual harassment scandals and probes into how he handled the pandemic. A second former aide is accusing Cuomo of sexual harassment. She told the New York Times that Cuomo had asked her questions about her sex life, including whether she had ever had sex with older men. Cuomo said in a statement to the New York Times that he never made advances towards her, adding, "Nor did I ever intend to act in any way that was inappropriate." This comes just days after another former aide alleged the governor made several inappropriate gestures toward her. Cuomo has denied those allegations as well. Now, State Attorney General Letitia James says it's essential that Cuomo formally refer the matter to her office for investigation, which would give her subpoena power and ensure an impartial probe. Cuomo's administration said on Saturday it had selected a former federal judge, Barbara Jones, to lead an investigation into the claims. But that failed to satisfy leading Democratic figures, including U.S. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York, who tweeted that there must be an independent investigation, not one led by an individual selected by the governor. By Sunday, Cuomo's office had asked the state's attorney general and chief judge of the Court of Appeals to pick the investigator, saying it wanted to avoid even the perception of a lack of independence or interference of politics. But James responded by saying that the governor needs to make an official referral to her office under the state's executive law. A spokesman for James said only a referral could enable an investigation with real teeth. But those allegations aren't the only areas Cuomo is feeling the heat. In recent weeks, he's also come under scrutiny for the way he handled the pandemic. Reports saying his office undercounted or covered up the number of deaths in nursing homes last year. An investigation carried out by New York Attorney General Letitia James found that the state may have underreported deaths by as much as 50%. Republicans and a number of Democrats in the state have called on Cuomo to resign over the nursing home deaths. Some Republicans in New York have suggested impeachment, while Democrats have proposed stripping Cuomo of his executive power. Cuomo has denied any wrongdoing and defended his office's response, saying, "The truth is it was the middle of a terrible pandemic. The truth is COVID attacks older people. The truth is, with all we know, people still die." Cuomo rose to national prominence for his daily televised briefings early on during the COVID-19 pandemic, when New York was the epicenter of the virus cases in the U.S. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio said on Sunday that there now needed to be 2 independent investigations, one into Cuomo's conduct and another into the nursing home deaths. He said in a statement, "Questions of this magnitude cannot hang over the heads of New Yorkers as we fight off a pandemic and economic crisis." There's also demands for an independent investigation. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi saying on Monday the allegations against Cuomo are credible, and she backed an independent probe. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki told CNN that President Biden also supports such an investigation. A New York State senator has also issued a statement calling for Cuomo to resign, saying, "As a New Yorker, a legislator, chair of the Senate Ethics and Internal Governance Committee, and a survivor of sexual abuse, I am calling for Governor Cuomo to resign." And a New York City councilman echoed calls for Cuomo to resign. But what do you think? Let me know below. Thanks for tuning in to Deep Dive. I'm Tiffany Meier, and see you soon.